Hi, this is James O'Keefe. Welcome to another episode of the Massachusetts Pirate Party News. Um, I'm James O'Keefe. I'm captain of the Massachusetts Pirate Party, and I'm joined today by First Officer Steve and no longer Quartermaster Joe. How are you two?
Ahoy, I am fantastic.
Doing well.
Excellent. So, first up is the U.S. House of Representatives decided to ban TikTok because they're owned by a Chinese company, and the Chinese company may share data with the Chinese government. Ignoring the fact that U.S. social media companies routinely sell their data to all and sundry, including the U.S. government. So, uh, interestingly enough, I mean, the vote was quite overwhelming. It was over 300 to about 60, with very few abstentions. Um, Additionally, in Massachusetts, uh, Auchincloss, Auchincloss, I never seen it pronounce his name right.
Auchincloss.
Auchincloss, thank you. Keating, Lynch, Moulton, and Trahan voted for it, whereas Clark, Presley, McGovern, and quite unexpectedly for me at least, Neal voted against it. Yeah, it has to go through the Senate, of course. Biden says that he will sign it, but it the Senate is like, maybe we'll get to it. So, thoughts from the two of you?
Yeah, I mean, I can remember like in the early days of the internet, the EU and US having a sort of safe harbor agreement because the EU had privacy regulations and the United States really didn't. And this was sort of a thing to, um, you know, whereby internet companies from the US could basically do business in Europe. After the Snowden revelations, that sort of fell apart because, all of a sudden everyone realized that if your data is coming into the United States, yes, of course it can be shared with the national security apparatus. Um, I think this might have I think the most significant effect of this will probably be mobilizing younger adults who are, sort of seem to be the bigger, the more avid users of TikTok. Take something away that people like and enjoy or use to run their business, and they'll I think they'll remember that.
Well, I think a big part of it too is uh, I do see kind of like the fact that this is a Chinese owned company, even though it should have an American division. But at the same time, it's like, okay, so they're singing and they're dancing. Not exactly high level national security things going on there, you know? I mean, sure, my singing could be used as a weapon, but um, yeah, no, not not something that's like national threat security. Now, I can understand the compromise if somebody's like, say, guarding our military secrets. Yeah, that's a bad idea, but I think all social media would be a bad idea in that regard. Um, Not exactly top level security stuff there, you know. When it comes to like little kids singing and dancing and butchering songs that we all know and love, uh, is this it, guys? Is this really it? This is the big fight.
I mean, so besides, no doubt, there's some element of, but think of the children, um, which is always there with a social media tool, as you noted, Joe, that is disproportionately used by young folks. But at the same time, they're saying, well, oh no, the Chinese government is going to get that data. And it's like, well, if we had a real privacy law that had teeth, that would be harder, right? I mean, routinely data comes out of Facebook or Twitter, YouTube, wherever, thousands upon thousands of websites, especially location data, and that gets sold to data brokers who in turn sell it to other corporations, ad networks, as well as government agencies. So if we want to make sure that data isn't available, then we really need privacy policies. But that would harm profits or something.
I don't
Well, I
know.
mean, we could take it. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
No, you first, Joe.
I was going to say we could just take it one step further. We could make it part of our educational code to actually teach kids in the classroom why posting stuff to social media is bad, what can be done with it, teaching them at an early age, like elementary level, like, hey, everything that goes on the internet, there's that possibility that it's there forever. And, teaching them that something that they're doing right now might seem really cool, but 5 minutes from now be really a bad idea, and just trying to teach those basic lessons. But I am all for empowering parents to be parents and letting the government not necessarily step in, but making sure that the make that part of the curriculum, part of the teaching process of teaching our youth that what they do on TikTok, what they do on Facebook, what they do on all those social media stuff is something that they want anyone to be able to see that. How would they feel if their parents saw that? Is that something that they would want just about anyone to see? Is that a good idea? Is that a bad idea? So I guess I'm not really articulating this quite right, but I think you gentlemen get the general idea.
See, I think the feds just want to, have the ability to subpoena TikTok for a hashtag. This is, of course, a sort of a cultural reference to an investigation that I don't remember which federal agent, or maybe it was, no, I think it might have been a local Boston or Massachusetts agency, but basically someone had subpoenaed Twitter for a hashtag, which, considering the time, it just shows a lack of understanding about how Twitter works.
I mean, there are some hashtags that are popular and some aren't, but it is just kind of like that feels like drinking from like a fire hose there.
Well, and a good part of it,
yeah.
I'm sorry, a good part of it too
please.
is just, sorry, Jamie. A good part of it too is just really where it falls into is how many of these social media giants, how many even cell phone companies or how many different organizations are just selling our information all willy-nilly, making that extra buck. And it's very easy for the feds to just come in and scoop up that information and circumnavigate all those bills and rights that we've fought so hard for so long to put in place. So many sacrifices, so many people who have given the ultimate sacrifice to get that in place. And they're just like, oh, loophole, let's go this way. So, and that's why we can't really give up the good fight.
Well, speaking of privacy, Steve, you brought up something on our activist list, an article in the New York Times about automakers and data brokers that I know made my blood boil. You want to give us some more information?
Oh, sure. This sort of is a Joe almost set it up really. Joe actually set it up rather nicely in terms of people selling your data to everyone. Cars have gotten have lots of tech in them. They're really computerized, right? Lots of computer power. And they're also, it's typical for a contemporary vehicle to have like a touch screen and that sort of thing, and to be to have a wireless modem so that it can talk to the internet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Car manufacturers, they can send telemetry data back. And one of the things that a few of them have been doing, like GM and Toyota, in particular, I believe, they also have apps that will, if you use them, the apps will sort of like critique your driving and tell you whether you're being safe or not. And it's sort of touted as a way to provide feedback and help you be a better driver. Well, these apps, like lots of apps, have big long privacy policies, and somewhere in the fine print, these auto manufacturers apparently gave themselves the ability to send to collect that data, but they also share it with data brokers like LexisNexis, who then repackages it and sells it as a product to insurance companies. So for example, the one person who in this story who had their auto insurance rate go up significantly, he was talking to different insurance agents and, why is it so much? And the, response he got from one of them was, well, you should look at your LexisNexis report. You're coming back as a high risk driver. So the driver requested a copy of his data, as he could do under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And he got back something like a 200-page-ish document that listed every trip he made in the last 6 months. Start time, end time, how far he went, number of times where there was hard braking or rapid acceleration. We don't have a definition for hard braking or rapid acceleration, but apparently there's some definition. And this, in the insurance company's eyes, made him a riskier kind of business. Now, I mean, cars, as we've the Mozilla Foundation, through some nice research that they've done, cars are really good at collecting data. In fact, they're better. We've often joked that cell phones are surveillance devices that you could use to make phone calls. Automobiles are surveillance devices that you could use to go from point A to point B. And the privacy policies for them are weighted very heavily in towards what the automakers want to do. It's something that there's not really a lot on. I wonder if it's the way we got video privacy laws was because someone just went and bought the rental history of some judge or something, and that infuriated people. I guess legislators don't want their video history being trolled out into the public. I wonder if someone could do the same thing for automobile data. But anyway, it's it's another example of where your stuff is not quite yours and it also spies on you. Thoughts, gentlemen?
I'll let you go first this time, Jamie.
Buy an old car.
Bicycles, man.
I don't know, man. I'm sure they're going to be putting CPUs and transmitters on those things soon.
Well, for electric, I could see that happening with an electric bike, but the plain old pedal powered, usually, I mean, some riders will put air tags in the frames if it's a nice bike. I ride around on a cheap $400 single speed, and it's about as uncomplicated and unsophisticated as one could possibly get.
Well, they do have the new electric bikes. However, this has convinced me to build a Zeppelin.
As long as it's not hydrogen. I mean,
I wonder if they will let me get away with that. And if it is hydrogen, then I'd only be blowing myself up. But kind of like just the lack of transparency on this has been absolutely obscene. And the next couple articles we have going on are really about transparency and corruption.
But before we get to that, if I might interject.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. So we've supported the Location Shield Act, which would prevent data brokers from buying your location data and trading in that data. The committee that is considering it asked for more time. Basically, in mid-February or so, all committees have to decide what they want to do about particular bills or the bills before their committee, and most bills just they send them off to research and that's it. But the Location Shield Act is still in committee. It's still being considered. So contacting your state representative and urging them to co-sponsor the Location Shield Act before the Massachusetts, the general court, as it is called, the Massachusetts legislature, would be a good step. If we can get that passed, at least then location data, which is some of the things that the cars gather information on you, would not be able to be bought and sold, and that would give us some protections, not the whole data privacy with teeth bill that we all like to see. And with that, Joe, please continue.
Well, I mean, it goes against some corruption things, and the next story that we really had for you was about the Massachusetts state trooper corruption that has become pretty well known, and it was about the Mass police officer who got caught embezzling overtime. He was embezzling overtime, and he was got convicted. He was lying on his taxes, and he even cheated to get his son get financial aid for his son. And so they are now looking to put him away for 6 years for such things. And I really just want to bring to light that corruption can really happen at any level. It doesn't matter where or what level of government or even what type of organization you have. Corruption can happen at any level. And it's always, when people think of like people being crooked, they either think of it as the top boss or the lowliest person who's stealing time in snickerdoodles or whatever. But really, corruption can happen at any level. And I think one of the key points that really distinguishes our party versus any other party is an absolute unwavering commitment to transparency. Transparency is the bane of corruption, because if everything that you're doing is made public and you're always expecting every single step of what you're doing, that means that all of your mistakes, good or bad, have been made public. And, it's not like I've been perfect since my time here, but every single mistake has always been made public. And I think that's one of the big key differences between how we approach politics versus how any other party approaches politics. Everyone's always, and especially with an organization like the police organization, where it's the good old boys club and or something of that nature. I think one of the big key differentiators versus us versus Republicans, us versus Democrats, or us even versus like libertarians or green parties. Libertarians, that's why we got so many libertarians to come over to us, is because libertarians became super cliquey. Like, are you one of the good people that we love, or are you one of those other type of libertarians? Whereas with a pirate is a pirate. You're either one of us or you're not. You either stand for our morals or you don't. And, I think that this is really where we're headed, is a complete and revamping of the way political parties are done. They're either going to go the way of the dodo bird, or they're going to be something completely brand new. And I think that it's finally getting to the point where the American public is completely sick of Democrats and Republicans, and hopefully, hopefully this, sorry to go on my box, but hopefully this is going to be some major changes. Some of the newest candidates coming out for office are just completely different. Gentlemen, what do you think of this whole police officer getting, the feds wanting to get 6 years of a police officer for stealing overtime?
Just 6?
Yeah, 6 years.
Is he going to get his pension?
I believe so. Maybe not.
I hope not. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how much OT did he steal?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, that's basically stealing from your employer. So I could see why someone would go after a police officer for doing that. Not necessarily, not nothing special about being a police officer. Wage theft is only okay when the corporations do it.
He says sarcastically.
So, according to the Boston Globe, the trooper was convicted of overtime fraud in 2016 may receive a $1 million pension.
Seriously? What? Oh man! I mean, the funny thing is, if I recall correctly, the Boston police officer contract says they can. It doesn't say if you're going to do a detail, you can only do one at a time. Which I'm left with the how do you do multiple details at the same time? Is there some time travel thing these cops have figured out, or something? They should share it with the rest of us.
Sorry for interrupting. He got about $29,000 of unearned overtime pay.
I mean, I doubt it was just $29,000.
$29,000 in 1 year. For 2015, it was $24,000 that he didn't actually show up for. 2016, it was more than $30,000. Yeah, but I think he pled guilty, so he still gets his pension.
He pled because he wasn't convicted, but no, that seems strange.
This
is the state that allowed, what was it? I think it was there was someone got like housing. Was it one of the Bulgers? I think it was like the Bulger who was in charge of the Senate went on to like UMass or something like that, and then because he got like a private accommodation, he could add that onto his. That was money he got that pushes his pension up, and I'm kind of like, wow, that's just kind of amazing. I don't know.
Yeah,
state workers should be paid well. I'm not saying that, but like, man, that just seems wrong.
Yeah, it says according to WCVB, mass troopers paying back money in OT scandal still get a pension. So yeah.
So you can defraud your own employer, the public, and yet you still get your pension? I don't know, man. That's just messed up. So do you have any good news about how we can fight this, Joe?
Well, before we get there, the other bit of corruption is something that's not often talked about is transparent. Or again, the reason why I was starting to go into the whole transparency thing was because one of the things that we really don't know is we talk about the corporate veil, right? Well, there's a veil over how much money our justice system is actually judges and court people are making. We have no idea how much money is being poured into them. And so, and that's out of all the different states who failed how much their justice system is making, Massachusetts was on that list. We have no idea how much judges make. And I think that we don't know what their paychecks are. We don't know what they're making or how much they're making. And because we don't know if judges are getting bribed. You know, one of the key factors of really knowing what's happening is you follow the numbers. Well, we can't follow the numbers when it comes to our legal system. We have no idea if there are judges being bought off or not being bought off. And so that transparency piece that's probably one of the biggest things that we need to fix and rectify. Is just ensuring those who are supposed to be serving the public moving forward are completely 100% transparent. And so how we do that is you vote for a pirate. And what Jamie was alluding to is I'm actually personally going up against Representative Howard in this upcoming election if I can get myself onto the ballot. So it's official. I am running for general court or state senate. And so I need your help
US
in order
House.
to
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, your 17th Middlesex is US House.
Yes, I'm going for the 17th Middlesex representative for the general court. I'm out of the 17th Middlesex district. So this upcoming weekend, I'll be out hitting the pavement, trying to actually get enough signatures. And if I don't get it this weekend, I'll try and go next weekend. And any help would be greatly appreciated. But again, I'm going to be going door to door myself, in the very least, and trying to make this happen. So, and whatever mistakes I may or may make along the way, I am always open to hearing what you folks have to say. So, gentlemen.
Well, congratulations on your decision to run, Joe. That's awesome news.
Well, following in your footsteps, Steve,
I never did state office. I'm just, I was always local. So this is, this is news.
Well, the real thing about it is I could do local, but there's a lot of things going right in Lowell, I think, for the city. I mean, there's things to be tweaked, but I've annoyed the Lowell community for a very long time. And there's a lot of things in terms of decency and doing things right that happens in Lowell. So, really one of the things that really strikes me is you always want to know what office you're going to. And do you actually even want that job? And for me, it's about numbers. It's always been about the numbers and where are the numbers at, where are the budgets at. That's in the Congress. So that's personally where I feel like I could do the most good.
Well, we're all very proud of you, Joe.
Well, be proud of me after it's done.
Well, first, get on the ballot.
Yeah.
So how many signatures do you need to collect?
I only need 150, but the most signatures that the people down at the state office said, we don't want more than 300. So if I get 300 people to say, you know what, Joe, I like what you're talking about, and I give you my approval and signature, I think that will be a win in and of itself.
Awesome.
And I in preparation for this, I did a little research. So in the last 15 elections for this district, in 12 of them, there was only one candidate. Only in 3 elections were there at least two or more candidates. So, just right there, Joe, being on the ballot, whatever happens, will be an achievement, considering how something like 60% of districts have no competition every 2 years in the general election. So more power to you.
Well, more power to us, because again, one of the biggest things I would like to bring is transparency to this whole process. So, and that's really going to be my sticking point. That, and if you really just are annoyed with the whole legal system and you want to annoy them, pick me. I'll go do it.
So if folks want to help us gather signatures, you can go in the description below is a volunteer link. Please fill it out and we will contact you in the next few days with the schedule. And we'd love it if you came out to Lowell and Chelmsford, which is the 17th Middlesex District, and helped us gather signatures. Any other parting words, Joe?
Yeah, it's mostly the area right off of 38 that we'll be hitting. That's really where a lot of people know who I am and have seen me around, and I've really helped out my community for a long time. So, and it's really actually one of the nicest. Lowell is actually a surprisingly nice city. It's a lot better than it used to be. But that being said, if you do decide to come up to here, just make sure that you be safe and that you just take your time. We do drive like, you've heard of Bostonian driving. Lowell is very Bostonian in that regard. So just make sure you're safe.
All right, so we are at an end. Thank you, Joe, again for offering to run. Thank you, Steve and Joe, for participating with me in Pirate News. If you would like to help with Pirate News, by all means, send us an email, info@masspirates.org. We're looking for other pirates to pontificate, gesticulate, whatever. And certainly we're looking for folks to help us in producing this. So with that, you can find us at masspirates.org. You know the drill. Join our mailing list, links in the description below, and we're on Blue Sky. I know that's not that big a deal, but anyways, if you're on Blue Sky, check us out. And Mastodon and all that.
And if you're on Twitter, you shouldn't.
And with that, have a pleasant week. Hopefully we'll see you next week if we're not too tired from gathering signatures. All right. Take care, folks. Bye. And it is done. Thank you both.
Thank you, John.